Psalm 78. Give ear, my people, to my teaching. Pay attention to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in parables and expound the mysteries of the past. These things we have heard and know, for our ancestors have related them to us. We will not conceal them from our children. We will relate them to the next generation, the glorious and powerful deeds of the Lord and the wonders he has performed. He instituted a decree in Jacob and established a law in Israel, which he commanded our ancestors to make known to their descendants, so that they would be known to future generations, to children yet to be born. In turn, they were to tell their children so that they would place their trust in God and never forget his works, but keep his commandments. Nor were they to imitate their ancestors, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation whose heart was not steadfast and whose spirit was unfaithful to God. The Ephraimites, who were skilled archers, fled in terror on the day of battle. They failed to keep God's covenants and refused to live in accord with his law. They forgot the works he had done, the wonders he had performed for them. He worked marvels in the sight of their ancestors in the land of Egypt and the plain of Zoan. He divided the sea so that they could pass, heaping up waters as a mound. He led them with a cloud by day and with the light of a fire by night. He split open rocks in the wilderness and gave them water to drink from limitless depths. He brought forth streams from a rocky crag and caused water to flow down in torrents. But they still sinned against him, rebelling against the Most High in the wilderness. They tested God's patience by demanding the food they craved. They railed against God, saying, "Can God provide a banquet in the wilderness? Certainly, when he struck the rock, water gushed forth and the streams overflowed. But can he also give us bread or provide meat for his people?" When the Lord heard this, he was filled with anger. His fire blazed forth against Jacob, and his wrath mounted against Israel, because they had no faith in God and put no trust in his saving might. Yet he issued a command to the skies above and opened the doors of the heavens. He rained down manna for them to eat, giving them the grain of heaven. Mere mortals ate the bread of angels. He sent them in abundance of provisions. He made the east wind blow in the heavens and brought forth the south wind in force. He rained down meat upon them like dust, winged birds like the sands on the seashore. He let them fall within the camp all around their tents. They ate and were completely satisfied, for he had given them what they desired. But when they did not curb their cravings, even while the food was in their mouths, the anger of God blazed up against them. He slew their strongest warriors and laid low the chosen of Israel. Despite this, they continued to sin. They put no faith in his wonders. So he brought their days to an abrupt end and cut off their years with sudden terror. When death afflicted them, they sought him. They searched eagerly for God. They remembered that God was their rock, that God Most High was their Redeemer. However, while they flattered him with their mouths and lied to him with their tongues, their hearts were not right with him, nor were they faithful to his covenant. Even so, he was compassionate toward them. He forgave their guilt and did not destroy them. Time after time he held back his anger, unwilling to stir up his rage. For he remembered that they were flesh, like a breath of wind that does not return. How often they rebelled against him in the wilderness and pained him in the wasteland. Again and again they tested God's patience, provoking the Holy One of Israel. They did not keep in mind his power or the day when he delivered them from their oppressor, when he manifested his wonders in Egypt and his portents in the plain of Zoan. He turned their rivers into blood. They could not drink from their streams. He sent swarms of flies that devoured them and frogs that devastated them. He assassinated their harvest to the caterpillars and their produce to the locusts. He destroyed their vines with hail and their sycamore trees with frost. He exposed their cattle to hailstones and their flocks to bolts of lightning. He sent upon them his blazing anger, wrath, fury, and hostility, a band of destroying angels. He gave his anger free rein. He did not spare them from death, but delivered their lives to the plague. He struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, the firstfruits of their manhood in the tents of Ham. Then he led forth his people like sheep and guided them through the wilderness like a flock. He led them in safety, and they were not afraid, while the sea engulfed their enemies. He brought them to his holy hand, to the mountain his right hand had purchased. He drove out the nations before them, apportioning a heritage for each of them, and settling the tribes of Israel in their tents. Even so, they put God to the test, and rebelled against the Most High, refusing to observe his decrees. They turned away and were disloyal like their ancestors. They were as unreliable as a faulty bow. They angered him with their high places and made him jealous with their idols. When God saw this, he became enraged and rejected Israel totally. He forsook his dwelling in Shiloh, the tent where he dwelt among mortals. He surrendered his might into captivity and his glory into the hands of the enemy. He abandoned his people to the sword and vented his wrath on his own heritage. Fire devoured their young men, and their maidens had no wedding song. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows sang no lamentation. Then the Lord awakened as from sleep, like a warrior flushed from the effects of wine. He struck his enemies and routed them, inflicting perpetual shame on them. He rejected the tent of Joseph and did not choose the tribe of Ephraim. Rather, he chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loved. He built his sanctuary like the high heavens and like the earth that he founded forever. He chose David to be his servant and took him from the sheepfolds. From tending sheep, he brought him to be the shepherd of his people, Jacob, of Israel, his heritage. He shepherded them with an unblemished heart and guided them with a knowing hand.